homework. You're going to have to put in the effort to figure it out. We checked everything up through 532 previously because that's what was getting turned in last week. So your 533 starts with the basketball court problem, which was not a homework problem. We did that in class, but then we get into our homework problem, and I will admit that like sometimes when we make blanket statements that doesn't really go for everything. So how I talked about the 5D process tends to be a waste of time, and algebra is better. If you wanted to do algebra for this problem, where this gets a little tough for what we know how to do right now, is length times width for the area would come out to be x squared plus 2x equals 168 square units. Like, we haven't really worked with x squared much, right? We're like solving it. So I'll admit, algebra here would be a little tough for us to do. So what they set up for us is a little test of, okay, if we try 10 and 12, that's too small. So bump your guess up, and then if you go too high, bring your guess back down. But if you bumped your guess up just a couple and took it to 12 and 14, that worked out. 12 times 14 gives us the area that we want. So I got lucky there. I saw a couple of you guys that turned in homework ahead of time, jumped up to like 15 and 17, and then realized, well, that was too big. And then you brought your guesses back down. Any questions on 123? As if you want help right now to be able to actually write it on your paper, like I said on the start slides, I know some of you don't read it, read this. Like, actually read it. Like, what's in yellow? All right, so then moving on past that problem, our order of operations problems. Guys, this is when you are safe to make mistakes in here. That's fine. Like no bridge is going to fall over, no building is going to collapse. But if you're making mistakes, we need to pay attention to the mistakes we're making. So that's why we check our answers. And if your answer's wrong, you should be like asking yourself, why is this wrong? Right? What did I do that I got it wrong? Questions? Sophie? I half 18, right? So 5 plus 3 got me 18. Half of that, because multiplication has to happen next, gives us 9. Multiplication happens before the subtraction does. Guys, if you need to, when you're solving these problems, write down PEMDAS, but it should be written down like this. And that can help you remember, oh yeah, multiply has to happen before subtraction. Questions? Oh, gotcha. Even if you don't have this done yet, you should be looking at it saying, okay, that's what he did. I should do that when I go to do my homework. No questions on this. We're all good with order of operations. All right, moving on to the back of that, combining our like terms. You guys, even if you don't have this done, you're welcome to be looking at this. You just can't be copying it, right? Because that does you no benefit to copy. You need to take time to try it on your own. Also, you can tell I'm recording, so today's video is going to have all these answers in it. Probably one of the, well, not tougher necessarily, but if you don't pay attention to like high school, middle school, like there's some trapdoors here. Probability is always P of something, right? What are we talking about? P of getting a shirt. Now, you could have said at the middle school, but I know in this problem I'm talking about the middle school. Down here, you could have said P of getting a shirt at the high school, but we know we're talking about at the high school. You don't have to do that. But then, at where are you more likely? Guys, this is maybe not how you did it, but compare 40 over 350 with 75 over 800, well, that they don't have common denominators. So if I was working to get towards a common denominator, what if I double the top and bottom? Am I to 800 yet? No. what will happen to my numerator when I go to get to 800? It's going to get even bigger. So where are you more likely to get a shirt? With the middle school. That, or you could have done the division, figured out the decimals, figured out the percent. There's a lot of different ways. But if I just think to myself, like, if I double and double, 80 is already better than 75. So the middle school's got a better chance. In 127, I saw some people trying to avoid this. Guys, how did he get the 1700 and the 34? That's what we have to figure out, and I give you the hint. It's the thing with the arrows. What are we doing there? Actually, the distributive property. If you want to make your life easier, don't try to multiply 102 by 17. Multiply 17 by 100, and then 17 times 2, and put those together. Questions on this whole homework? Jane?
For 125, the first page, I was confused on how you got 3x plus negative 13 plus 1.
So remember, the sign in front of a value, which if there is no sign in front of it, there's really a positive. So this we know is positive x, which I think you guys just assume, but I mean that's where assuming is safe actually. All right, so then positive x there, positive x here, positive x here. Now the real tricky part comes down to when we're looking at the constants. This is actually negative 8. This is actually negative 5. And this is positive 1. I put the negatives together first, then I add 1. That's how I get 3x plus negative 12. Does that make sense now? You just probably had a sign issue, right? Of like what's positive, what's negative. You could rewrite this as plus negative 8 if you want, like I've been saying since August. Right? Because we're trying to say 102 times 17. So the 17 needs to multiply by the 100, and the 17 needs to multiply by 2. Now, if we had a calculator, we could just punch the whole thing in. But if we're trying to do it without a calculator, the 102 breaks apart. We say we're going to multiply by 100 and we're going to multiply by 2, then do that addition. On to 534. Again, the first little bit of 534 was not your homework. It was examples from class. Then we get down to the homework. These are really what we call complements, and not like, oh, you look good today. A complement is what makes up the rest. So and guys, this is, I know, an old, we're getting away from this sort of thing. But if some of a group is boys, the rest of the group is girls. I know that we've gotten away from just having the two gender identifiers, but this textbook's like 5 years old, right? So you gotta give a little bit of grace that this textbook is like 5 years old. If there are only blue and white, and 9 of them are blue, how many are white? The complement is the rest of it. 250 pennies and dimes. 130 are pennies. How many are dimes? Find the rest. Find that complement. Questions on finding what's left in a group? That's the end of the front page. I did not mean to do whatever I just did. Oh, I just went back up to 5. All right. On the back here, guys, any situation involving two labels can be set up as a proportion. So if you have miles and gallons, we can build it up, break it down. We can do whatever we want as long as you do the same on top and bottom. Any questions here? It's the same stuff as what's right over my shoulder, except instead of a percent being used here, we're just using miles and gallons. Whatever we do on top, we do on bottom. Whatever we do on bottom, we do on top. distributive property, like we just practiced on the last homework, draw the arrows. And if you're going back and watching this, like in the YouTube video, pay attention to my color coding. I don't just do that because I like pretty colors. I do like pretty colors. That's to help your brain. The blue arrow gets the blue answer. The pink arrow gets the pink part of the answer. And I keep that pattern going. Bethany, was that a hand or were you just sitting with that?
Well, I was debating whether I was going to ask you a question.
You know what I learned last night? To peruse actually means to look something over thoroughly and like take your time. I thought peruse just meant like, oh, let's peruse these, like look at it real quick. But like I'm hoping that you were perusing my work up here and carefully looking at it and analyzing why I did what I did. Even if you don't have this done yet, you should be looking up here and saying, oh, how did he get that? Oh, that's how he got that. Where'd that come from? Oh, that's where. Oh, yeah, math goes vertically. We drop it down vertically. I'm sorry your elementary teachers had you going everything right to left. I think some of them are now starting to kind of teach you guys to drop vertically.
Yeah, vertically is so much better.
Makes sense in our brain, right? Things naturally just kind of fall down, trickle down. Questions on 141. Evaluates the fancy word that just means like do it. I only left space between A, B, C, and D, E, F to, if anyone had questions, so I had space to move things. Bethany? Just check your math. I mean, did you get -5, 2, and -4 brought down? If so, then check the next step. Did you get -5 and -8? And then check, did you just mess up on the addition of those? I mean, it's fine, because 8 and 5 is a weird one. We got to get used to 8 and 5 being 13. All right, on DEF, remember that a power and exponent, yes, they have multiple names, tells us to repeatedly multiply. To repeatedly multiply. So 5 squared is really 5 times 5. Some of you are falling in the trapdoor of thinking that this is 10. That would be 5 times 2. That's not how that is written. This is not 5 times 2. This is 5 times itself that many times.
Okay, so I remember I was in an expo part, it was like 5 to the power of 3 or something like that.
So that'd be 5 times 5 times 5.
So I was so
Times
confused.
itself that many times. Arfon?
So on D, for like a half times -6, where's the negative go?
Yep, I dropped my negative. Hudson made a mistake. Arfon gets candy. So this should be -3. That should be -42. I showed you guys the video of the bridge that collapsed because of a forgotten negative. The bridge that like rips itself apart. We haven't seen this yet. Arfon, come get candy. You caught a mistake of mine. Top drawer right here, man. I gotta pause my video. So if you're playing along at home, what I'm about to show, if you want to see it, if you search the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. All right, now pause mine. So what was happening as it was like swaying is it should have been canceling out its own forces to bring itself back to level, and it wasn't because the design was wrong. And instead of canceling the forces, if you do the opposite of canceling something out, you're compounding it. Right? So instead of like, if you ever like had a swinging ball that you're trying to get stopped, if you push with it, you're speeding it up. Right? If you kind of slow down with it, you're slowing it. But so that's what happened here.
Finally, the steam rose and the suspension cables give way and plunge into the water below. Fortunately, the only casualties were a car stored on the bridge and a dog.
Now, I don't even know if that's true about the dog. Because there's other stories that say that professor that you see walking on the bridge had gone back out there to save the dog. So, like, there's some differing stories of actually, like, was anyone hurt from that situation? But either way, forgotten negatives are a big deal. Yeah, I was probably distracted by somebody in an airport. I'm not joking. I was doing this work while on a trip. I like to people watch. It is a guilty pleasure of mine.
I love people watching.
So what is our scale factor here? We compare the new.
Documents where you specifically
Hey,
buy
I'm moving on now. We need to be able to move on for me to make those side comments. Comparing the new shape to the old shape, if I compare 33 to 22, I can kind of see they're both multiples of 11, but what does that actually tell me? Well, 3 compared to 2, I'm sizing up. Excuse me, by how much? Well, not double. Or double would have taken us to 44. I'm sizing up by 1 1/2. So if I'm going left, I could divide by 1 1/2, or if I'm going right, I could multiply by 1 1/2. Jane?
For Y, I got 65 millimeters, and then for Z, I got 26.
I mean, if I double check 54 times 1 1/2, I think I gotta at least be close. Oh, that should be 81. Oh yeah, it is 81. Yeah, so that should be 81 because if we go this way, we're multiplying by 1 1/2. If we go this way, we're dividing by 1 1/2. I didn't even write down my X here because I wanted you guys to have to actually do something. Last year, I posted answer keys, and then kids super took advantage of that and just cheated a whole lot. So that's why I don't post my answer keys now. So X would be 26.6 repeating, or 26 2/3 if you want to be real exact. Moving on, because I can tell a lot of you need more time to do this homework, and by that I mean you just don't do your work outside of class. I don't know why. It creates anxiety for you. Dude, sit on 4 feet. Seriously, if you get a concussion in math class, I'm going to be real mad because there's so much paperwork. Parents will be mad at me. Like, sit on 4 feet. Girls is 6 more. I goofed up here, friends. Anyone want to catch it? Ooh, Jane.
Well, I definitely know I got B equals 50.
Well, where's my goof up? Did you spot that yet? Because this is wrong, which means everything else is wrong. I'll give you another chance before I throw it to Donna. Donna?
It's supposed to be 2B plus 6.
Girls is 6 more than. Hey, go ahead and do this with me if you haven't done this yet.
What is this?
Girls is 6 more than twice the number of boys. There's a jar full of pencils in the back. There's a jar full of pencils in the back. If you need a pencil. So girls is 6 more than twice the boys, but then the total of boys and girls is 156. So now if I put B plus G equals 156, but then I can replace my B, I'll cross all this out. I can replace my B, no, I can replace my G, sorry. I can replace G with 2B plus 6. And then we can work it from there. Donna, come up, top drawer. Because she was able to point out the mistake I made because she had already done her
Because
homework.
I looked at like the 75, like how is it 75? I got like
It's not.
something
Like that answer's wrong because I goofed up, but I wrote in pen and I already scanned these documents, so I'm not like this is opportunities for kids to get candy, and I like giving away candy. I'm not gonna solve the rest of this for you, but the next thing we do is put our B's together, and then the next thing we do is start getting rid of stuff. Like get rid of that 6, then get rid of the 3. And if you don't know how to do that, come get help. Diamond problems. Don't think I made a mistake here, but hey, you never know. The ones involving decimals are starting to make us think a little bit harder. Harfon?
I think on B you swap the numbers. Because the top is multiplication.
Yeah. I mean, so if you'd like to consider that as you get another piece of candy, I don't care. But yeah, so negative 16 should be up here, 6 should be down there, like whatever. Bethany? Are the other ones right? Yeah, the other ones are right. Again, true confession, probably was just distracting. And that's why, like, I get it. Sometimes you put down wrong answers on your paper because that you're a human. Mistakes are gonna happen. And that's okay. I'm looking for the effort that you put into doing the work. This is multiple choice. I typed that there because in previous years, kids were trying to struggle to figure out how do I do part A, do part B, do. This is multiple choice, guys. Which of these shows how we find an average or the mean of those three values? Well, to find the mean, we add them up, divide by how many we have. So we add them up, divide by how many we have.
Do you have to have written something down?
I mean, really, you just C is the answer. Like that's. I'm just checking. Do you guys know how to find averages? And I am not trying to drag that slide. I'm trying to go here. And the back. You had to pay attention to them telling you one of the 10 sections is labeled large prize. 3 of the 10 sections are labeled small prize. The rest would be 6. Because we used up 1 and used up 3 more. The rest would be 6 for no prize. So a prize of any kind. We'll add up the big and the small. That's like one of those or situations. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge for what's going to be on your mastery tomorrow. That's like one of those or situations where we actually add things because or any prize would make me happy. Like either color would make me happy, right? Either Paris, like whatever you're talking about, or means either would make you happy. In 148, more order of operations traps. 2 cubed. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Then another trapdoor, you're going to be tempted to subtract. We can't subtract until after we've done division, multiplication, anything else that comes above it. So the next thing we do is that division. Over here, I just simplified 14 over 2 to make 7. You don't have to follow that exact work. I just wanted to make my life easier. So if I have a 14 on top and a 2 on bottom, I can really just go ahead and do that 2 on bottom and make that turn into 7. We end up getting -4. And funny enough, I told you the answers. If you actually read the words I put on the paper, I told you what your answers should be. This is a checkpoint. It's you checking yourself. Do I know what I'm doing? Did I follow the order of operations correctly? Did I fall into one of those trap doors, or do I actually have some confidence with this now? Questions on this homework? So beyond those three and the closures due tomorrow, you have the rest of class to work on whatever you need to work on. And I have a few things to pass out, but not a ton. Your test for tomorrow. There is a high probability that you'll want graph paper for drawing diagrams. Ha, see what I did there? Probability. It's a test about probability. Ha, ha. All right. Convert these percents into fractions and decimals safe. If there was one time you'd maybe want to hang out in here, it would be to see what you're going to be asked to test on tomorrow. As an archer, Glenna has a shooting percentage of 85%, meaning she hits bullseye 85% of the time. If she attempts 420 shots, how many will be bullseyes? This is kind of similar to our discount work where we were doing with stores and things like that. Of if the bed is 15% off, if Glenna misses 15% of her shots, right? That's kind of like the same situation. Mr. Krabs gave a $5.60 tip on a $40 bill. Is he a good tipper or not? Figure out what percent he tipped to figure that out. Marbles. We've done a lot of these. Probability of what, or sorry, not marble, gumballs. Probability of white, probability of green. An or situation. Or situation. Or is different than and. Tree diagrams. If you are not comfortable creating a tree diagram, you should review that. Because we need to make a tree diagram for Casa de Burrito. And we need to make a tree diagram for Mr. Flynn's outfits. But between those two problems, I just tucked in this little probability question about a stoplight. So you'd have to read through that, but then it's just what's the probability that you will have to stop at that light? And it tells you all of the info that you need to be able to set up your this compared to the total. Another tree diagram, just about Mr. Flynn getting dressed in the morning. Number 8, Mario's Kart. I also went ahead and gave you circles here. Like, I drew them myself on the test. So when you go to set up the spinners, all you have to do is set them up. You don't have to actually draw the circles. So I know some of us will spend too much time trying to draw a circle that looks nice and pretty. Don't necessarily know how that's funny, but okay. Sorry, I'm adding a title to... that's not what I wanted to do. Alright. Sorry. So 2 spinners, then probability table. If you're not comfortable doing a probability table, you're making this awkward right now because I'm in the middle of trying to get through this whole test. No, yeah, there's more than 7 questions. So probability table, remember we can only use that for a situation where 2 things are happening. So we're using that here because only 2 things are happening. Car, truck, van, motorcycle, green, blue, or white. Here's where you could 5D if you want. They tell us about a triangle. Triangles have how many sides? 3. So the second side, the third side, don't forget about the first side. You could 5D if you want, or not 5D, like you could algebra or whatever else you want. Matt and Dominic are going fishing. This is another one of those. You could 5D or you could algebra. 11, a rope gets cut into 2 pieces. There's a short one and a long one. You could, again, 5D or algebra. And the final question, you could, again, 5D or algebra. That's the test. That's it. A lot of probability, tables, trees. We still have 3 minutes. I don't know why people are packed up ready to go. Unless you're all caught up on your homework and you have nothing to worry about right now, which I don't think is very many of you. That's the test.